Today, I'm going to show you how to overcome anxiety while rebuilding with an avoidant partner so that you feel at ease as you navigate your connection as it stands today. And interpret communication with your avoidant partner without having to read into every word they say, and so that you can learn how to manage your reactions so that you don't fall into this triggering each other and then distancing trap. So whether you're back together with your avoidant or you're navigating the early stages of reconnection, I want you to use these simple tips in your relationship. You'll feel more grounded and at ease in your relationship. And you may even notice your avoidant leaning into the connection a bit more. So definitely pay close attention and let's get into it. One of the things you might notice when you first reconnect with an avoidant partner is their trepidation about the relationship and where it's going, or their desire to take it slow. Now, this is due to having uncertainty or wanting to feel out the relationship before jumping back in, which in many cases is actually a really healthy approach. The challenge is that this type of approach often triggers anxiety for the more anxious partner. The anxious partner really wants to have certainty about the relationship. They want to know how their partner feels about them. The anxious partner might misinterpret the avoidant's hesitancy and take it personally. And they may wonder if the avoidant is serious about them, which can lead to asking for too much certainty from the avoidant partner too soon, which only draws them further and further away and only heightens your anxiety. The solution to working with anxiety around this initial stage of reconnecting is by bringing awareness to what you say to yourself about their distance and starting to gradually, and the key word here is gradually, change your internal dialogue. So let me give you some examples. Instead of saying to yourself, oh, they are becoming distant, it must mean they don't love me, try, I notice that they're being distant, and when they do that, I start to have some pretty intense, uncomfortable feelings. I feel insecure, and I make up a bunch of stories about what's going on in their head when I don't really know. Or instead of, well, they're not getting back to me, it must mean they're leaving me, try on, I notice I feel tension inside when they take a while to respond to me, and since nothing major has happened between us since we last spoke, and they did tell me they were going to be pretty busy, maybe they just have too much on their plate and they'll get back to me when they can. Now, what I mean by gradual is we're not going from, oh, my partner's gonna leave me and I'm very scared and I'm in distress, to trying to convince yourself that everything is okay and that your partner is never going to leave, which likely you're not even going to believe in a state of that kind of heightened distress. We're actually trying to reason with ourselves. We're trying to talk ourselves down from the ledge. In a way, we are actually enlisting the voice of agency and reason, basically the adult part of us, to talk to maybe the child part of us, the part of us that is distressed, that's terrified of someone leaving us, which as adults, is a bit more of an irrational fear. You know, when a child is afraid of their parent leaving, that's a very terrifying prospect. But when we're adults and we're terrified at the prospect that another adult can leave us, that has a bit of a younger quality to it when that fear, when that distress is so high. So in a way, when we dialogue with ourselves in this very kind of rational, grounded way, we're again invoking the adult within us to come in and go, hey, you know, most likely everything's going to be okay in this situation. One more example is if you had a little tiff and they're being distant, instead of saying, you know, this is it, it's over, and replaying every silly thing you said, try, if I really think about the discussion we had, does it really warrant them ending the relationship? Probably not. They just need a little bit of time to process than I do, and they're probably taking space to do that. So the key to this tip is to make your self-talk adjustments gradually. Big leaps, as I mentioned, in self-talk aren't effective when we're experiencing these high degree of emotions. You have to work on talking yourself down from the ledge in a slow and deliberate manner, much like a parent might talk to a child who's in distress. Next, I wanted to talk about the communication challenge with an avoidant, and I want to give you these tips around texting, but I think these tips can also apply beyond texting to regular communication, face-to-face communication. You may find in the initial stages of rebuilding communication with the avoidant to be rather challenging. You may find that you maybe read too much into their communications. Their sparse texting might again bring up anxiety within you, and you may start to try to fill in the gaps with stories about what's going on without really knowing if they're actually true. You'll probably want to know more or wonder what they're thinking or what their messages mean. What you want to start to understand is that everyone has different values and cadence around texting and communication, really, including people with the avoidant attachment style. So here are 4 tips for texting with an avoidant. Tip number 1 is reread your text from your avoidant partner, especially when you're feeling anxious. From personal experience, I can't tell you how many times I have misread a text, especially when I'm feeling anxious. Texting is not my preferred method of communication. I find it's kind of rife with misinterpretation, and you can easily misinterpret and read into something. So I can't tell you how many times I've gone back to a text message and literally reread it and thought to myself, like, wow, that is literally not what they said. They said something else entirely than what I made up in my mind. So I highly recommend this as even though it seems like a very small and simple technique, it's a very powerful technique to, to not further any kind of, your own distress, or not to fuel arguments or disconnection via text. And in fact, I've even had clients where, my clients will send me screenshots, especially if they're in one of my programs. They'll send me screenshots and I'll read back the text to them, and or I'll have them read it out loud, and we often find that they'll come to me and they'll say, like, wow, this is really not what I read. This isn't what I made up in my mind that this text said. This text says something entirely different. So I can't tell you how powerful this simple tip is to help you, one, to reduce your anxiety so that you can really understand what people are saying, because a lot of times when we're feeling really anxious, we're not seeing things so clearly because we're in a state of distress. And when we're in a state of distress, we're often looking at the world and looking at our relationships in a much more antagonistic kind of way. Tip number 2 is don't pressure yourself to respond right away. So if you're rebuilding with someone who doesn't mind gaps between texting, then likely if you don't get back to them right away, it's probably not going to be a big deal, because texting, that's already their preference anyway. So give yourself space to respond, give yourself some time, take off the urgency around a response. Another thing that it's like a great communication tip is, you can always buy yourself time by saying, I'm not sure, or let me get back to you, or something like that. Tip number 3 is never make assumptions. And this is one of those tips that's gonna go way beyond texting in any relationship. Try not to make assumptions around something when you don't know what it means. If you're confused about a text, or if you find yourself reading into something, then the likelihood that maybe you're confused or that you don't understand or you need more information is pretty high. So the first step is to not make assumptions about what it means. Now, the second step about this, which is actually tip number 4, is ask for clarification. If you find yourself confused, if you find yourself getting anxious about what something means and you don't know what it is, then ask for clarification, ask for more information, ask for what it is that you need. An example of asking for clarification is, what do you mean by that? Is a very simple, useful question. Again, I use it in communication all of the time. Or you could say, you need more information. I didn't hear back from you about plans this weekend. Just wanted to to follow up and see if we can agree on a time. Now, as you can see, some of these tips not only help you to communicate with an avoidant partner, but they also help you to take care of yourself and help you to reconnect with your own needs, which is an important part of rebuilding a healthy connection, because it's not all about this other person. It's not all about the avoidant. It's also about you, and it's also about you feeling safe and secure in your connection. So I recommend applying these tips to reduce your anxiety around texting an avoidant partner. And if you follow these tips, your avoidant partner will likely feel a lot more comfortable and a lot more at ease texting with you too. Now, there is a certain wisdom in the anxious avoidant relationship that often goes overlooked, where both parties have something significant to contribute to the relationship. The wisdom of the anxious partner is attuning to the needs of the other, while the wisdom of the avoidant is attuning to the needs of the self. Both of these skills are important for any relationship, and a healthy relationship is one that has a balance of both. For the anxious partner, rebuilding with an avoidant partner isn't just about attuning to what the avoidant needs, but actually learning how to attune to yourself and take care of yourself in the relationship, which we started to talk about in one of those last tips. So if you struggle to take care of yourself in your relationships and you often feel depleted, abandoned, or have the experience that you're giving all of the time, and if you easily know what your partner needs, but when it comes to what you need, you kind of draw a blank, or your needs and resentments build up over time and sometimes even erupt out all at once, then working on your anxious attachment style to become more comfortable and secure in your relationships could be really important work for you. Attachment work will allow you to feel more at ease in your relationships, whether you're with an avoidant or a secure partner or even an anxious partner. You'll feel more comfortable communicating without second guessing everything you say. And it will allow you to overcome your abandonment wounds so that you feel okay in those moments when there is space and time in your relationship, which will undoubtedly happen at one point or another. So if you'd like support getting there, I recommend applying for my program, Recover, Restore, Reconnect. I am currently taking applications. In this program, you'll recover from your attachment wounds, you'll restore your self-esteem, you'll reconnect with your partner, and only if it's right. And if you've had a recent major rupture in your relationship and you're struggling with anxiety, with self-blame and obsessive thoughts, and you'd like to feel at ease again, then this program is definitely for you. If you're trying to navigate communication with an avoidant and your anxiety and fear of loss is getting in the way, and you'd like to communicate from a place of confidence, then this program is definitely for you. And if you'd like to heal your attachment wounds so that you feel comfortable and confident in your relationship or any romantic relationship, then I encourage you to apply. you can do so using the link in the comments or in the description below. Did you like this video? If you did, give me a thumbs up. And if you'd like to watch more videos on attachment theory and the anxious avoidant dynamic, then definitely subscribe to my channel. Next up is my video on the dismissive avoidant partner and what they feel if you tell them you want them back. That's going to be right up here, so definitely watch that next. Thanks so much for stopping by, and I will see you on the next one.